Halloween is a time where we tell stories about ghosts, zombies, witches, and werewolves. We dress up as characters or as our favorite celebrities. We decorate our homes with the macabre. Skeletons, fake blood, severed hands. While for most, Halloween is a fun time of year, for others it brings some real-life horrors. Horrors that are even scarier than the stories about monsters that we tell. Today, we are going to be talking about real-life monsters. The real horror stories that happened on Halloween. Saturday night, the 29th of October, 2016, in San Antonio, Texas. A group of young adults got together at a home on Aspen Meadow for a Halloween party. A street with such a serene-sounding name would become the site of a horrific crime. The party lasted until the early hours of Sunday, October 30th, when a group of males showed up to the party and started causing trouble. The host of the party did not recognize the males, so he did not let them in. The men started to force their way in when a shoving match ensued. A fight broke out, and the host of the party noticed that one of the men, dressed up as Freddy Krueger, was holding a shotgun. He opened fire and shot 5 people, including the host. 3 of the victims were taken to hospital. One victim tried to drive her car to the hospital but crashed along the way. The assailant was 22-year-old Robert Contreras. He was arrested nearly 1 year after the shooting and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. On the same night across the country in New York, a similar incident happened. Omani Free, 18 years old, decided at the last minute to go to a Halloween party at an apartment complex in Newburgh. She had been to parties at the same apartment complex many times before, so she was familiar with the area. Tabitha Cruz, 20 years old at the time, was supposed to go to the party with her cousin. Her cousin decided not to go, but she went anyway. Located on the second floor of the building, this party drew in a larger crowd than usual. There were lots of cars parked out front, and people in costumes waited to get in. Around 12:43 a.m., witnesses describe hearing a fight break out. Then someone shut off all the lights, and then they heard gunshots. The crowd scattered and ran for the exit. Omani Free and Tabitha Cruz were both shot. They were rushed to the hospital that night, but their injuries were too severe, and they ended up passing away. 5 other people were shot and brought to the hospital. They recovered. The assailant was 18-year-old Nia Johnson. He pled guilty to shooting and killing Omani and Tabitha. He was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. Before being taken away to jail, all he had to say about the matter was, "I apologize." On a Monday afternoon in 2011, a Chicago woman by the name of Maria Adams was at her friend Liddell Peoples' home on the south side of town. He suddenly became enraged and attacked her with a steak knife. She tried to defend herself by throwing plates at him, one of which cut him below the eye, but he continued to grab more knives and stabbed her until she lost consciousness. Peoples called police about the incident, and they rushed Maria to the hospital. The following Saturday, she succumbed to her injuries. Peoples was charged with her murder. When he asked what prompted the attack, he told police that a bag of Halloween candy was missing from his home, and he thought Adams had taken it. Peter Fabiano, his wife Betty, and his stepdaughter Judy Solomon were at home relaxing on a quiet Halloween night in 1957. It was a school night, so the family was surprised when around 11 p.m. the doorbell rang. Peter got out of bed and answered the door. Betty overheard some of the conversation that her husband was having with the person at the door. He asked them, "Isn't it a little late for this?" She claimed she heard one male voice and another that sounded like a man impersonating a woman. Then a gunshot. The noise woke up Judy, and her mother ran to the front door where they saw a horrific sight. On the floor, lying on his back in a pool of blood, was Peter. Judy ran to a neighbor's home, the home of Bud Alper, who was a member of the LAPD. Several officers showed up minutes later. Peter was rushed to the hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. The question about who did it would be answered approximately 1 week later. A 43-year-old woman named Goldine Pizer confessed to the killing. She said that her friend, Joan Rabel, talked her into the killing. Why would Joan want Peter dead? Joan was a former employee of Peter. She described him as a vile and evil man and said she developed a deep hatred for him. But what did Peter do that made her hate him so much, enough to end his life? Joan wanted something that Peter had, something that she could not have because he stood in the way. And that thing was Betty. Joan and Betty were friends, but their relationship was a bit abnormal for the time. At one point, when Betty and Peter were having relationship problems, she moved in with Joan for a bit. To resolve their relationship issues, Peter asked Betty to end her friendship with Joan, and Betty agreed. It was at that point that Joan became fixated on her hatred for Peter. Homosexuality was illegal in the state of California at the time, which might explain why Joan took a plea deal. Nothing is really known about what happened to her. Halloween is a fun but scary time of year. Aspects of the holiday may provoke people to carry out horrific crimes. The illusion of being dressed up as someone or something else, taking on another identity, the fear of the unknown and the unexpected. Be safe this Halloween and take extra caution when going to parties and knocking on doors, or even answering your own. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Hit the like button and the notification bell if you want to be notified when I post videos. Thanks again, and have a happy Halloween.